I want to tell you a story, a true story, and one that I've kept from you because I haven't been ready, like, to tell it. But I think I am right now. So, as far back as I can remember, my grandfather has had Parkinson's. He has had trouble walking, sitting, and then later on speaking, and finally breathing. What I did not show you right after I got back from, the best trip of my life there in Malaysia with Susan was returning home to find his issues had gotten dramatically worse to the point where he could no longer control the muscles in his throat to swallow and had to be rushed to the emergency room in an ambulance. Now, he's had many surgeries throughout the years, and this final one ended up being a tube that would just pump food into his stomach. Like, the day after they finally returned him home to us, my mother got a plane ticket and flew across the country the next day, and my aunt came down from Northern California. And so, finally, the whole family was together. My grandfather, his wife, and his 2 daughters, and his grandson. We spent the next few days kind of cycling in and out of his room, just having some special one-on-one time, telling him how much we loved him, sharing some of our favorite memories, or just special lessons that he had taught us about life. And to be honest, I don't know if he was awake or even like conscious at that point, but it gave me some closure. And then early one morning, my mother woke me up, and I went into the room where everybody else was surrounding him, holding his hands and praying, and again, telling him how much we loved him and thanked him for the life that he gave us and all of the sacrifices that he made and our plans for the future. How we would be, how he prepared us to continue to be okay even after he wasn't here anymore. And then once we finished, we just held his hands and were silent and listened to his breaths get slower and slower, and finally silence. My grandfather was quite the character. You always have like this picture, right, of grandparents being these sweet, wholesome folks that just love, living simply and drinking tea and fishing. He wasn't that. My grandfather was like the rebel, the bad boy, the one who wasn't afraid to challenge authority if he thought that it was the right thing to do. And as he grew older, he honestly believed that the world was like his oyster and that there was nothing that he could not do. There was nothing that he was not capable of if he really set his mind to it. And that belief gave him the confidence to get a pilot's license and buy his own plane, to become a sailor, to become a diver, and to become a leather jacket wearing, motorcycle riding rebel. Like, he knew what he wanted out of life, and he was not afraid of the work that it took to get there. And along the way, he met this cute girl and married her and really tried to give her the best possible life that he could. He persuaded her to apply and get a pilot's license, and then they would spend days just flying above Los Angeles, taking in the sights. They would go scuba diving together. They bought horses and they would ride them together. They would buy houses, right? Fix them up and sell them at a profit to be able to turn around and buy new houses, fix them up and sell them at a profit, etc., etc. Life was like a dream, honestly. And then came a letter one day in the mail from the US government. drafting him into the Vietnam War. Because while there, he was sprayed with Agent Orange, a gas that in the end cost him his life. Because like once he got back from the war, everything seemed fine and dandy and wonderful. He was back to doing the things that he loved with the people that he loved. Everything was wonderful. But unbeknownst to him or anybody really, that gas had like just destroyed his nervous system. And so years later, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, which I should probably explain, like it messes with your nervous system so that your brain can't quite properly communicate with your muscles. And it's not a good thing at all. The day he received that diagnosis, his entire life got flipped upside down because it cost him his pilot's license, it cost him his prized gun collection, it cost him his boat, and it cost him his driver's license at all. From that day forward, he would have to be carted around. In that moment, he lost most of what he loved in life in a day. But this wasn't his condition when I came along, because he had always wanted a grandson. And now that he finally had one, he was going to take full advantage of this, He would put me on his lap when he was like just tearing up on an ATV. He would carry me while he was riding horses, and a host of other things that I was way too young to do and my mother was not happy at him for. But it's because I was the son that he never had. He and my grandmother had 2 girls. And so I was like, the thought of him having a grandson just meant the world to him. But this is not the grandfather that I remember, because I was too young then. And now, when I look back and remember as far back as I can go, he's always dealt with Parkinson's. And granted, it wasn't nearly as severe the farther back I go, but even in the earliest condition I can remember him being in, the thought of him behind the wheel of a car, let alone a plane, is so ridiculous that it's so outside of the realm of who I knew him to be as a person that it's almost comical. Bappa driving, flying a plane. That doesn't make sense. That's not in any way how I experienced him to be. I remember after we moved to North Carolina and we hadn't seen them for quite a while, my grandparents came to visit and he was in a wheelchair. And that was kind of still shocking to me because I remembered him at least being able to stand up. So... But the thing is, while his body deteriorated, his mind did too. There would be frequently times where, he would be in the circle of all of us talking and, laughing and having a good time, and he would just be there staring out into space. Occasionally, though, he would, the inner him would shine through the fog, and he would just kind of blurt out something so hilarious and shocking and so much of the kind of person that he was in his 20s and 30s that we would just instantly stop what we were doing and all turn and look at him and then burst out laughing because he had quite the sense of humor, let me tell you what. And that is how I remember my grandfather. And as time went on and I moved into this house to help take care of him, things just got worse and worse. For a while, for a couple years, we were able to still take him out and have experiences with him, go to the movies or go eat dinner at a restaurant, but not the last year. We were trying to get him in the car and it just was not working. And we realized that time had passed and it was over. He couldn't go out anymore. In fact, his last meal out at a restaurant happened to be his birthday celebration at Bob's Big Boy in Burbank, which is a which is where he spent a large majority of his teenagehood. He loved that place so much. And I don't know, I just think that's kind of cool, kind of fitting. But from that point on, he was forced to just lay in his bed, just eating mushed food, drinking water, breathing, like just existing. And I wonder, like, what 20-year-old Jack would have thought about the life that was forced on him. If he could have known what, I don't know. And yet, he fought against it. Like, even after he knew that he could no longer get up and get out of bed, he would still oftentimes ask my grandmother in the mornings, like, what are we doing today? Where are we going? He fought against this disease, against Parkinson's, for 20 years. He was like, stubborn as a mule. The more that I learn about my grandfather's life from my grandmother, the more like I am learning about how to live my life. It's really shown me how to live with confidence, an appreciation for, and a love of life, just passion and how to embrace it, how to like rebel responsibly, but most of all, how to accept bad things happening to you without accepting them happening to you. And like, I want to live my life now. I feel like the torch has been passed on to me, and I don't just want to be inspired by my grandfather, but like live in a way that he would be proud of, that he, could look at and say, yes, I'm proud that is the legacy that I have left. And that's a huge task. That's a lot of responsibility, because he was very much the kind of person that I want to be. And I love you, Papa. Thank you. I'll do my best.